The Acolyte is no more. It's been reported that plans for a second season of the controversial Star Wars Disney Plus series have been cancelled. And with this cancellation comes many questions, following that literal cliffhanger ending, the appearance of Darth Plagueis the Wise, Qimir's connection to the Knights of Ren, and of course, who the hell is this green little guy?
I've never seen you before in my life.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Colton Ogburn, and in this video, we're going to answer all of your lingering questions following the Acolyte season finale, which is now a series finale following the cancellation of the second season. We're going to recap each of the show's teases for the future, where those teases could be picked up in other shows, movies, novels, and comics, and how we think the story of May, Osha, Qimir, and Vernestra will continue on screen in a long-awaited special Star Wars project centering around Darth Plagueis, a young Sheev Palpatine, and of course, Master Yoda. So let's start with Osha. In the finale, we saw her bleed a lightsaber from blue to red and force choke her old master when she learned the truth of his role in the death of her mother. Osha has now embraced her full power and appears to be one of the strongest dark side users we have ever encountered. Remember, like Anakin Skywalker, her midichlorian count is very high.
The M count is very high, extremely high.
Midichlorians are a microscopic life form that resides within all living cells. They continually speak to us, telling us the will of the Force.
We've also seen firsthand that Qimir is a very powerful dark side user as well. So with these two super powerful dark side users out there in the galaxy with a thirst for revenge against the Jedi Order, we have to assume that we will be hearing from them again.
I'm coming back for you, baby. I'm coming back for you.
In the finale, we learn that Qimir was indeed a former Jedi Padawan to Vernestra, who we can safely assume gave him these gnarly lightsaber whip scars on his back. The rivalry between these two and the story of why he went dark is something I really wanted to see. I really hoped that that was something they would explore via flashbacks in a second season, but now we may see this story unfold in another medium, such as a comic or a novel, or maybe even an episode of Tales. Tales, of course, being the series Tales of the Jedi and Tales of the Empire, where we get self-contained episodes telling different stories from throughout the saga's history. Perhaps we could see a third installment of this series called Tales of the Sith, where we explore Qimir's turn to the dark side and how he became Plagueis' apprentice. So speaking of Plagueis, let's get into his future and where his short appearance in the Acolyte could lead us for future shows.
I'll be back.
Darth Plagueis was of course first mentioned by Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith.
You ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
There's also a great Plagueis novel, which is now Legends, meaning that it's not canon.
Not yet.
So Darth Plagueis was Palpatine's Sith Master, and in Legends, he's actually alive up until the events of The Phantom Menace, but he is then killed by Palpatine in his sleep. Now, it's of course in the Sith's nature to kill their master. The Rule of Two established the idea that there'd be a master to wield power and an apprentice to crave it.
Always two there are. No more, no less.
Now, Plagueis and Palpatine existed in the shadows, as did Darth Maul, and the Sith had yet to reveal themselves to the Jedi. And that's why we hear Ki-Adi-Mundi say,
"The Sith have been extinct for a millennium."
And no, this canon was not broken by the Acolyte, because it's clear that Ki-Adi-Mundi is still under the impression that the Sith are extinct. It's not like he encountered a Sith in the Acolyte. As far as he knows, the one responsible for all of the Jedi killing was Jedi Master Sol.
A rogue Jedi named Sol killed his accomplices.
The entire point of Ki-Adi's line about the Sith being extinct was that he was wrong. So in the finale, we did see Plagueis lurking in this cave on the planet that we can safely assume is Baldimnik, the same planet from Legends where Darth Plagueis and his master, Darth Tenebrous, spent a lot of their time, and that planet had the lightsaber shorting metal Cortosis, which of course we saw can be found on this planet in the Acolyte. And I mean, it makes sense that Plagueis is hiding in this scene. During this time, he would be in hiding. So it makes sense that he would have his apprentice Qimir out there doing his bidding, and that he himself would not want to be seen by Osha. Not yet anyway. So the question then becomes, why has Plagueis likely instructed Qimir to bring him Osha? And that answer can be found in the Plagueis novel, as well as in Revenge of the Sith and The Rise of Skywalker. Plagueis and Palpatine, and really the Sith in general, were obsessed with obtaining eternal life and creating life. Together, Plagueis and Palpatine attempted to use the dark side of the Force to create life, and for a long time it was heavily implied that they were responsible for the creation of Anakin Skywalker. There's even a deleted line from Revenge of the Sith where Palpatine tells Anakin that he is basically his father. You didn't hear any of these fans complaining about two men being able to create life, but whatever. But now it would appear that the canon explanation is that Plagueis and Palpatine attempted to create life, but the Force struck back at them and created the Chosen One to combat their shifting of the balance of the Force to the dark side. So with this story taking place almost a century before the events of the prequels, this would be exactly when Plagueis was experimenting with creating life and achieving immortality. So it makes perfect sense that Plagueis, just like the Jedi, would be in search of this vergence in the Force, May and Osha.
We just need proof of a virgins, and those girls are the proof.
In Rise of Skywalker, we hear Palpatine talk about Force dyads.
A dyad in the Force, a power like life itself.
Force dyads are when two individuals share a strong force bond that's as powerful as life itself, and that force bond can connect the two beings across time and space, all of which is connected to the Sith's pursuit for eternal life, and of course May and Osha were also a Force dyad. So it makes sense that Plagueis would try to learn about this power from dark side witches, just like we saw Palpatine attempt to learn about dark side magic and sorcery from the Night Sister witches in the comics, the Clone Wars, and in Star Wars Rebels. So I was really looking forward to a second season further exploring Force dyads, their connection to the Sith, and the origins of Anakin Skywalker. Plus, Coral is still out there somewhere. So I hope that we get to see this story continue in perhaps a Darth Plagueis the Wise series that continues the story of Qimir and Osha and shows us an up-close and personal look at Plagueis' experimentations with dark side magic and the return of the Sith. And in that series, we could even see some dark side on dark side combat between Plagueis and his new apprentice Sheev Palpatine versus his former apprentice Qimir and Osha. So don't get me wrong, Qimir and Osha are bad, but they don't appear to be evil. I could see them rebelling against the Dark Lord, especially if it's revealed that Plagueis wants to drain Osha and May of their life force in order to obtain eternal life. We could then see Plagueis and Palpatine go toe-to-toe with Qimir and Osha, and we could see a story unfold that doesn't even involve the Jedi and continues to keep the Sith in the shadows. We know that Plagueis and Palpatine go on to be the two Sith leading into the prequels, and of course Palpatine takes on his own apprentice in Darth Maul. So it would make sense to see Qimir and Osha break from the Sith and start their own thing, perhaps even the Knights of Ren.
Knights of Ren. Ghouls.
It was teased throughout the series with Qimir's helmet as well as the reoccurring Kylo Ren theme that Qimir is connected to the Knights of Ren from the sequel trilogy.
We are.
And that is yet another thing that I was really looking forward to seeing followed up on in a second season. One thing that I've really appreciated about the recent Star Wars projects is how they all connect across generations of different stories. So I really hope we get to see the character of Qimir continue in some fashion, and I hope we get to see perhaps the origins of the Knights of Ren with Qimir at the center. And I'd also really like to learn how old Qimir is. I mean, he says he was a Jedi a long time ago, and then when Osha pushed him on it, he again says,
It was a really long time ago.
Implying that he may actually be older than he looks. I mean, his former master, Vernestra, is well over 100 years old, which I'm guessing is normal for her species, but Qimir, on the other hand, is human. But if he's working with Plagueis, it would make perfect sense for them to have discovered the secrets to eternal life via force healing, an ability that we saw Qimir use in this series. And hey, speaking of Qimir, be sure to check out our Teeth shirt up on our merch store right now, ScreenCrushMerch.com. We've got lots of awesome Galaxy Far Far Away inspired merch up on the store right now. We also have Prequel Apologist, Hello There, The Ability to Speak Does Not Make You Intelligent, and many, many, many more. Shopping our merch store is the best way to support what we do here on the channel. Thank you so much for your support. And lastly, of course, we have the Yoda of it all. Many complaints around the Acolyte claim that the series is breaking lore, and that's of course an absolutely baseless claim, and there's not anything in this series that breaks canon. I'll debate anyone, anytime on that issue, hit me up. Anyway, one of the key complaints is that the Jedi shouldn't know at this point that the Sith have returned, and of course, they don't. Vernestra covered it up and pinned it all on Sol. Now, after that, we see her go to talk to Yoda.
Sorry to disturb you, Master. We need to talk.
I personally don't think Vernestra is going to tell Yoda the truth. I think she's just going there to repeat her lie about blaming Sol for all that has happened. But whether she confesses the truth to Yoda or not, I think he would find out the truth one way or the other. So the question then becomes, why doesn't Yoda share his discovery with the Jedi Council? Well, because as we've been saying since before the show even started, Yoda is part of this Jedi cover-up. What this show did brilliantly was explore George Lucas's original intentions of the Jedi being responsible for their own downfall via their hubris, arrogance, and corruption. And this show showed us that perfectly, because this is literally the High Republic era, the Jedi at their prime, and we're seeing the first steps in their descent that will ultimately lead to their extinction. And we think that Yoda will participate in this cover-up not because he's a bad guy, but quite the opposite. His dedication to the Jedi Order will push him to cover up the transgressions of the Jedi and to protect the Order from public scrutiny, because he believes in the idea and the mission of the Jedi Order, and perhaps he is in denial in thinking that the Order has solely pure intentions. So I think that while Yoda may find out that Vernestra did a cover-up, he will then do another cover-up to cover up that cover-up. And this is kind of supported in The Phantom Menace. When Yoda finds out that Qui-Gon encountered a Sith and Katie Mundi insists that the Sith have been extinct for a millennium, Yoda doesn't really seem surprised by the fact that the Sith are back.
I do not believe the Sith could have returned without us knowing.
Hard to see the dark side is.
So guys, I was really looking forward to getting to see Yoda become a primary character in the second season of The Acolyte. Maybe we'd even get to see him pursue the Dark Lord, Darth Plagueis. And that's of course where May comes in.
I need you to help me find someone.
In the finale, we saw May's memories wiped and she was taken by the Jedi. I think that in a season 2, we would have seen May, who is strong with the Force and a skilled fighter, become a Jedi Knight and perhaps even become Vernestra's new apprentice. And together, the two would hunt down Qimir and Osha. And we could even see Master Yoda help restore May's memories and help reveal the truth behind Vernestra's cover-up, Qimir and the Sith, and the plot to destroy the Jedi. Without a season 2 of The Acolyte, I'm not so sure we'll get to see that story told, but I'm hopeful that we will, perhaps in a show that isn't called The Acolyte, but something that still serves as a follow-up to that series. Perhaps a series called Darth Plagueis the Wise. So guys, let me know, are you bummed we aren't getting a second season of The Acolyte? And what loose ends are you hoping to see tied up in future shows, movies, books, comics, games, you name it? Let me know your thoughts on all of that down in the comments below, or you can @me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, be sure to subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Colton Ogburn.